Hey, welcome to another activity in our PHP 2 class. We're going to explore the idea of object-oriented programming using inheritance. So inheritance is the idea of taking a single class and extending it to a more specific group. For example, we're going to create a class called superhero, and we can create some superhero types. So I'm going to use Superman and Batman for my guys, but you can choose somebody else. If you have Ultraman or if you like Mr. Incredible better, you can use their names. But we're going to have a battle between superheroes using inheritance to demonstrate some object-oriented programming. So let's talk about, first of all, what we're going to create. We're going to make a class called superhero. We're going to give it a name and health and the isDead properties. So we're going to start off with a class from our person and extend it. The methods for our heroes are going to be things like Constructor. It'll initialize your guy. The attack command will put damage points on the other player. Determine health will find out if your player is dead or not. And then if it is dead, we will have a method that will check to see the value of this property. So here are some instructions that I'm going to demonstrate right here on the screen. So let's go to our Eclipse editor. Okay, so I'm on my Eclipse editor and I have my browser over on the right side. So let's make a new project here and we're going to call it Superhero. So we're still in Unit 1 and Superhero. So our new guy is going to actually use an object from our person class. So let's go into our person object and copy him and then open up our new class and paste it. So we're going to be borrowing person from our previous work. In case you haven't seen person, we can come in here and see the methods and the properties of person. So we know that a person in our previous example has a name, age, username, and password. Perfect. Now we're going to start with our superhero folder, make a new PHP file, and we'll call this thing superhero. Now you notice I'm using a very generic name. It is not Batman or Superman, it's just superhero. So we're going to say this class is called superhero. Remember, I'm using the exact spelling with uppercase letters as well as the file name. And this time I'm going to use the word extends. And we are going to extend person. So if we're going to use person, we're going to have to import it. So let's do a require once and type in the word person.php. Okay, so now we got ourselves the person. Looks like we need our brackets. Okay, so now the word extends means that we are going to inherit all the properties from person as our superhero. So that means that in the person area, these properties, name, age, username, and password, all are in the superhero class, even though we don't declare them here. However, if we wanted to add some new properties, we could put things like this, has cape, and that would be a true-false value. So let's do this as a private variable. So if we were to go and do a tester for this, let's call this thing a new file, and let's call this word play.php. So we're going to play a game. Now in here we're going to require the superhero object, and we're going to make a new guy. So let's say we'll call him Ultraman. Ultraman is a new superhero. And it's asking for a string here. Where did that come from? It comes from the person property in our constructor. Remember in the constructor we created here, it was asking for a name. So I better put one in here, and let's call him Miguel. So Miguel is a super Ultraman, I guess his name is. Okay, so now I want to set some values on has cape. So let's create another method. It's called a getter and a setter, you might say. Let's create a function called getFunction, and we'll say obtain a cape. Okay, so we're going to have the property this arrow has cape is now going to be set to true. So now this guy has a cape, and we could also take it away from him. Let's do public function lose cape. And you can guess what that does. We're going to say this arrow has cape, and we're going to set that to false. So we all could use another function, and we can say cape status, we'll call it. And this will print out whether or not he has a cape. So if we say if this status or this has cape status equals true, then we'll print I have a cape. Let's use his name. Let's say this name has a cape. Okay, so I'm looking here at Ultraman, and I want to add a cape to the guy. So if I went to Ultraman and said, what's my methods here? So I can choose cape status. That'll print whether he has a cape or not. And I do Ultraman, and this time I want to do get cape. So where's that at? Find a cape or something? Obtain a cape, that's what it was called. And then lastly, let's do his cape status again. And let's print that out. So those three guys. So I'm looking in my localhost directory on my web browser. I refresh the page. I go find the new folder called Unit 1 Superhero, and I'm looking for play. So I've got some errors, but I do have some text. What's it say? First of all, it says, hi, I'm Miguel. I'm a new person. So that came out of the message from here, the constructor. So when the constructor on the superhero ran, it actually came from the object of person. So you notice superhero doesn't have any constructor. It's nothing there. So it's relying on this one. And then the next property error is this. It says undefined property, superhero : name. So what that is saying that when you tried to set my name here on line 15, this arrow name, it says there's no such thing as a name in the superhero object. So why didn't it catch that? We have a name property up here. Well, the reason why it didn't inherit it properly is because I set this variable to private. So what I want to do is, you can change it to public. That will fix the problem. But in a more ideal situation, it's called protected. So protected variables are still hidden to the outside world, except we are going to share it with superhero. Superhero extends from person. So a protected variable will flow downhill. It'll go down the chart. It'll go to the descendants. So person, protected, shares his name with superhero. So over here it says does not have a cape. So it didn't use his name here. It was supposed to show his name. That was supposed to show his name. Let's try it again. So now with a protected property here, it says my name is Miguel. Miguel does not have a cape, and then suddenly he does have a cape. So we put a cape on him, and then we printed the status. Okay, so there's a good example of using inheritance, and we stumbled upon the protected name in doing inherited properties. Well, let's go back and look at our requirements here. So we're looking for the guy to have a name. He should have health and is dead. So health and dead have not been implemented, at least in my model. Maybe in your person it has. So let's go into superhero and add a couple more things. So this is a private, and let's call it health, and private is dead. So far so good. What else do we need? So the methods. We have a constructor method that initializes the name and initial health. So let's do a constructor first. So down here in the constructor area, it's tradition to put the first function in line as the constructor. So let's say public function. So let's do a underscore construct. Now you notice I have two options. I can say I can use the constructor from person, or I could invent a brand new one. So I'm going to stick with this one. So this is called overriding a previous class. So it is like a redefinition. So let's redefine this thing as name gets the n variable. So $n. So let's give him a default value for health. So let's say our health is going to be 100 for the first guy, and the other health, or the other variable is dead equals false. So he's alive. All right, so now I want to give a function to say, let's return a value. Is he dead or alive? So let's do another public function, and let's call this thing is he dead. And let's return a value this time. So I'm going to say if this value of called is dead, if that's true, then we can just return dead. And then the other case is going to be else he is alive. All right, so let's use that function then in our play area. So let's say, let's do another statement. Say Ultraman, and then I'm going to use the function called Ultraman arrow is he dead. And that should tell us if he's dead or alive. So let's go back and try play again. And it says Ultraman is alive. Very good. Okay, so we have a dead or alive function. There's also another option in an Eclipse that we can use. So let's say if we wanted to get and set the health. Well, if we could do a right click on the property up here, and if I come down to the word source and generate getters and setters, let's see what that does. So it's such a common practice that it's an automated process in here. So if I do health, it's going to generate two functions for me, get health and set health. And let's choose OK. Let's see what happens. So automatically, all the typing's done, and it returns the value of the health, and this one sets the value of health. So let's check that out. Let's go to the play function, and let's find out what we have here. So and so you can see I have options for Ultraman. I get the get health. And let's set that and run it. Let's see what happens. So his health is 100. Now let's see if we can set it. So I'm going to copy and paste here. In between here I'm going to change his health. Let's do set health. Is there a set health in there? There it is, set health, and I can put in a new number. So let's say if I want to make his health 90, let's change that to 90, and sure enough I have 100, and then it goes down to 90. So that's how the getter and setter will do for you. Now obviously the get health is written in superhero class, but not in the person. So if I were to go to play, and I were to create a person, and I'm going to call him normal guy, and he is equal to a new person, and I were to give him a name, let's call this person Zoe. And if I tried to do normal guy and look for his set health, it's not there. So the only properties for a person are the ones that were in the person class. So I could try set health, and it's going to give me an error. So if I put in a number 44 and run the program, I'm going to have an uncaught error. It's this undefined method in person. So there is no set health in a person. It only exists in the inherited class of superhero. All right, I'm going to put a couple more functions in here. I'm going to create a function for when we attack. So let's say I have a function called take damage, and we're going to take a number, hit against me. I'm going to call it hit against me, and we're going to do a function that says this.health equals this.health, and it's going to be subtracted from the hit against me variable. So that way we can go down in value. Also we can do a function that's going to be called attack maybe. So this one's a little bit different here. I'm going to pick a random number from 1 to 10, and then I'm going to subtract that from the enemy. We're going to use a new variable called damage, and it's going to be a random. So how did you do random in here? So if we type random, it takes a minimum, maximum of integers. So let's say a random number from 1 to 10. So then for my enemy, so let's do enemy object, he is going to do the value of take damage. And he's going to have the word damage in it. So that will cause damage to your enemy. Let's put in a message here and tell it what's going on. So the message is going to say, this person, this name, has attacked the enemy name. So it'll say Superman has attacked Batman and caused 10 hit points against him. So that will give us a little feedback of what's going on. So let's save this. Let's go over to the game now. Let's go over into the play area. And let's create some new functionality here. So forget the capes. We're just going to create another superhero. So I've got an object called Ultraman and Unstoppable. We're going to make them fight each other. So we're going to say while the value of these two guys is not dead. So we've got this loop. So we're going to attack each other and then print their status. So we can choose attack, and let's put in the word unstoppable. So we'll attack. So Ultraman will attack Unstoppable, and then we can print their status. So you can see that there's a status message. Now let's attack the other direction and reverse the names. Okay, it looks like the end of the round, so let's do an echo of a... And let's save it. Let's see what happens over here now. Okay, so let's refresh this page over here. Let's choose play, and I'm getting a blank screen. So a blank screen likely means there's an error because I'm expecting things to be printed. So no error messages show up by default on PHP. That's kind of annoying. So let's go look in Google and look for a certain show errors command. So PHP show all errors. There's always some code here that I forget, but I look up. So all we have to do is put in a couple of lines here, copy those guys, and let's put them at the beginning of our page, and that will display the errors. So let's see if that works any better. So let's go back, refresh the page. Nothing shows up. So what did I do wrong? Alright, so it's not the problem with errors, but I think it's right here. Is he dead is supposed to return the word dead or alive. So it's not true, false. So instead of here, we're going to say is he dead equals alive, and he's alive. If they're both alive, then keep playing. Let's try that. So refresh the page. So it looks like we've got ourselves the program running. However, we've got another issue. And so the error says you cannot access the protected property called superhero name. So I tried to do Unstoppable get the name directly. So what I need is a method that will get the name. So let's come back up to here and let's see. The person function has the name. Let's go and add some methods. So I'm going to right click and choose source, generate getters and setters. So get name, set name are the two setters and getters we're going to create. And so now get name will let me use that property. So let's try again. Let's come back into my play area, and instead of accessing the name, let's put in an arrow. And is there a get name? There is. Good. Okay, so get name, and the same problem here. So let's do get name, and now let's try it again. Refresh the page, and there we have a whole bunch of hitting going on. So it says he got hit points against him. Looks like it goes on forever, so I'm going to stop this. So why does this go on forever and ever and ever and ever? So let's go check out what we're doing here in the take damage function. It's completely wrong. How did I type this? It says here health equals has cape. Oh, the type ahead actually didn't help me there. So I want to do health, and it takes the hit points away. And we should do an if statement to say if his health is less than 0, if this arrow health, if it's less than or equal to 0, then we can truly say that he's dead, right? So this is this is called is dead equals true. Okay, so let's run that again. Let's refresh the page, and this time we've got actual numbers. So it says we got 10 hits and we got a 4 hit, so 90 and 6. So Howard and Miguel are fighting, and we come to the end and it looks like Howard had 6 left and Miguel had 0. So it'd be kind of nice at the end of the game to tell it who won. So let's put in something after the while loop, and we know that the game over, and tell us who won. Okay, so I'm going to put in a message that says who lost. So if the Ultraman has health left, that means Unstoppable lost, and otherwise it's the other way around. So let's try it again, and let's see who wins. So it looks like poor Howard lost. Let's run it again. It looks like Miguel was defeated, and I keep running it, and once in a while we get Howard lost. So one of the two is going to be the loser at the end based on our logic here. Okay, so it looks like the game's working. I'm going to add another feature, or I'm going to have you add another feature actually. I'm going to ask you to create a function or another method, and let's call it recover. And let's give it a variable. And let's see, this is going to add some health back to the person after each blow. So then the second part here, inside the while loop. Right now all we have is attack and attack. We could have a recover method in here. So we could possibly have one of them more resilient than the other. Also, another feature would be nice is to have turn numbers. So we could say turn number 1, and then turn number 2, turn number 3, and we would have a count as we go through the game. So there's some improvements for you to create on your own.